Hey everybody, Hot Mess Mama. I got my little birthday girl here. Hold on. There she is. Hi Gunja. Who's a year old now? Who's a good baby? Yes you are. Where's my pretty baby? You are. Yum, 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 yum. Bright moments in what has been a very, very dark time for my family. Quick reflection. It is Good Friday. I have the kids for spring break right now. They're cleaning out the car. I usually spend Good Friday doing some sort of like cleansing, meditative, modern version of Christian suffering, cleaning the house. I'm also moving. I just finished the 40-day challenge, and there's a lot of stuff that just needs to be cleaned and organized and packed away. We're still intending to move. It's just been such a slow and terrible process because my father owed taxes on the house, and to get the deed back to him, it's like this long, convoluted process that we really don't have to do much in. It's just waiting for judges to just rubber stamp stuff. It's stupid. It takes forever. Bureaucratic red tape type of thing. Anywho's, so there's been a lot of reflection, a lot of loss this Lent. It's probably been the hardest Lent I've had. With I hate bringing it up again, but my mother passed away in August. I was not here when she died. I actually just landed in Washington when she passed away, but I do believe that she was waiting for me to land safely before she let go. So I felt comfort in that. And also, I essentially had my closure and went through the 5 stages of grief before I left, because when you have somebody on hospice, and I think this is why a lot of people, especially in the United States, have a very hard time with grief and mourning, is because it used to be normal to have people die in your home. People took care of their elderly within their own home. But unfortunately, nowadays, our society is such that in order for us to continue living, we can't take the time to help those who are dying die. Which sounds weird, but you get what I mean. So quite frequently, we ship our elderly off to senior centers and home cares and outside of the home hospice. And so when they finally pass, you don't see the progression of death, which, although, yes, it is emotionally terrifying and sad and all these other negative emotions, it actually brings you better closure to see the process of death, because there does become a moment where your relative is no longer your relative and they really are just a body, and you're able to finally let go. I personally feel that if more people experience the process of death, they would have much better closure and would be able to move on much easier. Now, in instances like when there's something traumatic that happens, like a car accident, like of course, yeah, I expect that grieving process to be like way worse. It's traumatic for everybody. But in the course of natural death or long-term disease death, if you can, I highly suggest in-home hospice. It is very tiring, I'm not going to lie. But in the long run, you yourself are going to feel so much better for it. You're going to feel closure. You're going to feel like you did the best you could for your parent or relative because you gave them comfort. They were able to die in their own surroundings, amongst their own things, and amongst their family. So when I left, yeah, I wanted my mom to die while I was still here, but it was easier because I was there through the whole process. Sorry for the interruption. My nephew came in to tattle my other nephew, and I was just like, just get the job done. All they're supposed to do is clean the car out right now. Oh my gosh. Anyways, so if you can, do hospice in home. I found it much more comforting. And then I've been going through the process of trying to keep my church alive for the last 2 decades of my life, quite literally. And COVID really put a nail in the coffin for my church, and we hadn't been able to recover. And so my church was just deconsecrated on Monday, the day after Palm Sunday. Thankfully, the diocese did come up and give us a final Eucharist on Palm Sunday, which was beautiful. And my upset about that whole experience, ow, Concha, you bit me. Sorry, she's like tugging on a ball and she nipped my hand by accident. But my whole upset about that whole thing is a lot of people showed up for the final Eucharist and for the closing. And all these people that I know on Facebook are like, oh my God, it was such a pretty little church. I went there when I was little, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And, granted, some of them moved away for various reasons, but others are still in the area. And they're like, oh, it's a shame. This shouldn't have happened, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, but then where were you? And this is a common misconception on the various denominations. The Episcopal Church, although very Catholic in tradition, is not run like the Catholic Church. Each parish is supposed to be self-sufficient, but they still answer to the administrative head, which is the diocese. And if you don't go to church and you don't tithe and you don't volunteer and you don't volunteer to do some sort of administrative thing, like be on vestry, which is the governing body of each little parish, this is what happens. If you don't want these churches to close down, you got to go to church. So it made me realize how many people are summer children. And so those are the people that come out in the happy times, the good times, the warm times. There's not many of us that are winter children. And that's why I feel very much like St. Thomas is my patron saint, because he was the ride or die guy, okay? And I don't think that he was doubtful of Jesus' resurrection and didn't doubt or believe that he could have. But the reason why St. Thomas didn't see Jesus when he appeared to the apostles the first time is because they were all in hiding, and he did not believe in hiding. He was the one who said on their way to Jerusalem, when everybody else was like, oh my God, Jesus, they're going to come after you, they're going to try to kill you, blah, 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 what if this happens, what if this happens? St. Thomas was the one who's just like, well, then let's die with him. He was the ride or die guy. So when they're all in hiding, why was St. Thomas not there and didn't see Jesus that first time? It's because he didn't believe in hiding. He was still out and about doing his thing. He wasn't going to hide in some secluded little room away from the Romans and the Jews. That wasn't him. And so I don't think that when Jesus told him, blessed are those who believe without seeing, that he was demeaning Thomas. But rather, because I don't think Thomas wanted to believe in cowards and what cowards would say. Why would I believe your cowardly words? Because they also didn't believe unless they touched Jesus' hands inside. They did that too. But never in the gospel does it actually say that Thomas actually had to touch Jesus. He simply heard his voice and said, my God, my Lord. Like, he just already knew. He's like, that is you. And so I think St. Thomas gets dumped on quite wrongly, but I believe that when Jesus said, blessed are those who believe without seeing, I think he was trying to relay to Thomas that even you should believe the conviction of even cowards, okay? They hit their bottom, they hit their low, but even the low can come back and believe harder than they did before. It may not even be like they believed harder than Thomas did. It might actually be that they finally believed at his level. Because like I said, he was the ride or die. Meanwhile, St. Peter, who's the foundation of the church, he denied Jesus 3 times. I can't say for certain that if it were St. Thomas instead, but I think St. Thomas would have been like, yeah, I know the guy. But anywho, so St. Thomas is a winter soldier. And very much my congregation at the end was a bunch of winter soldiers. And when all these other people showed up, I'm like, summer children, where have you been? Why do you... And it's like my mother always said, it's like, why does the family suddenly show up when somebody's finally sick or dying? Why can't they be there during all the other times? It's a good question. Why do you visit the grave of somebody? Why didn't you spend that time with them while they're alive? So, whole thing. So then the third loss, because things come in threes, was that I had my 16-year-old dog. I was there to help him come into this world, and I did have to help. He was number 7 out of 9 puppies, the poor mama, and he actually came out butt first, and he had a big booty. So we called him Fathead because he had a big booty even when he was a baby. But I had to help deliver him because she was getting so tired, and that was Beowulf. And 16 years later, I was there to hold him as he passed away. So that was an experience. I've never been there at their birth and at their death. Usually just at their death, because I never see the puppies born. But he was born in this house, and I knew he was going to die in this house. But he was so old. I was waiting for him to go, but when he finally went, it was upsetting. But, and this is funny, even once he stopped breathing, it still took like 2 minutes for his heart to stop. The dog was stubborn. Sorry, I have to keep pausing, keep getting interrupted. But she's a year old. So, bright lights. I'm going to cut it off for now. Bye.